Hello and welcome to the room, to the vlogging pod room. Let me re-emphasize that. Tonight we are joined by Robin Alvarez. Welcome to the room, Robin. How are you today?
I'm doing so well, thanking me.
Oh, awesome to have you here. As you know, I like to do a little bit of research on everybody that comes onto my show. And so with that in motion there, I would like to stop and say, um, a little bit about what I've found on doing research on you. And when
Okay.
I know I'm a little tongue tied. It sometimes happens when I get excited.
Oh no,
So
I
I
think, oh no, what did she find?
no, no. I only go for what you have out there. I'll bring in your name and I'll hit all these sites. That's why I asked for links as well from our
Yeah.
guests. And I like to go read and everything I can to get you back. And one thing I found truly interesting about you was that when you were growing up, I read that you were an introvert. But now you write, and as a writer, I find that you've been doing quite a bit of interviews and you even did a podcast. So to explain to me how that growth came about from being an introvert for now being right out thrust into social media.
I think that so when I was younger, I experienced a lot of trauma in different ways. And so I had a very negative outlook on life because of my negative experiences. And then I started writing this book many, many, many years after all of this trauma. And it healed me in a way that brought me to this very more light personality, I think, that allowed me to come to this world and go, hey, I'm here. I feel good about talking in spaces. I want to tell you these stories, and I'm not scared to do it anymore.
Well, that's nice. I mean, and I guess choosing this type of venue and it would help you with all that, right? I mean, you would have to actually put yourself out there even more.
Absolutely. I think especially because readers want more authenticity now. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why they're looking for, is this accurate representation, which can be hard and can be easy in some ways. But what it really gives people is a look at experiences they might feel they've also had or
Mhm.
felt close to having. And I think people really like that. So you do have to let yourself be a little open. And I know that's not for everyone. I think that's for a lot more authors today than when if you were growing up wanting to be an author than you thought this field was going to be like.
Oh, yeah. I I think I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I always thought, writers to be more scholarly. Like, like the patches on their elbows of those jackets, and smoking a pipe and
Yeah.
a even now as I've written my own books, it's like, wow, there's a lot more work to this.
Oh, yeah. I my perception of it was to have people fall in love with the characters, not me, and to be like a recluse in some ways, and that's not
Mm,
the way that this works anymore. Some
no.
of that is because of content creation, and being a creator is something that almost every field expects, and so
Mhm.
some of it's that. And so you just kind of you have to decide whether you're gonna jump into that
Oh,
or
yeah.
try to be that old idea of what an author is, and that's tough.
Well, even as being, an author myself, when I'm reading other people's work, and if I'm truly mesmerized. Now I'm a little bit different because I am an author, so I understand the
Yeah.
difference between the person and the book, okay? But if I'm really in love with the book and I'm so enthralled, like I really want to find out more about the author, it's I don't know about you, but and I guess it's a thin line since I'm on both sides of this. But you don't want to get spammy either. And so you want to share content in a way where you're sharing a bit of yourself so that the reader feels like, "Oh my gosh, she's so like me. I want to buy her books."
Yeah, and I think it's, like, how they come to the book too. Like, if they found it
Mhm.
in a bookstore, they're probably not gonna look at who the author is, but if they found it because of your presence,
Mm.
then it's really about them loving you.
Oh,
That's so
yeah.
scary and
And
such a
and
hard thing to do.
I'll be honest with you, I have reached out to authors in both ways. Now, a few of the authors have come on here, and I fell in love with how they speak about their books, but then
Mhm.
reading the books, I was like, But then I've had the opposite where I fell in love with the books, and I was like, hmm.
You
I
never
mean,
know.
yeah, but I think that's just the matter of us being different and what appeals to us. I actually had one author, and I thought reading her book, I was like, "Oh, wow, this woman is gonna be so scholarly. I am out of my league." But then when I spoke to her, I was like, "Holy crap, this woman could be my best friend." You know?
Oh, that's
And
good.
I know, and then when I told her that, I was like, I did well, I didn't tell her exactly that, but I was like, I just didn't think, and she was like, I almost thought I offended her, and she was like, "Why, you don't think I" "No, no, I actually thought the different. I thought you were so scholarly that I would be, you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
I would look so meager in comparison." But I think that's just it, and I think it's
Yeah.
our creative part of ourself, shows such a deeper level to us at times. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah? So now, speaking to you as a writer, there is something I found interesting, and I wanted to know the actual definition of this. You explain yourself as a hybrid writer, with a
Yeah.
preference on writing in a four-act structure. Tell me about that, because I was like,
Yeah.
"What?"
A lot of this has to do with the fact that I have ADD, and I can hyper focus on something for only about 20 to 30 days. And so I spent like 5 years writing my first novel and 20 days writing my second one. And I had to figure out like how can I do this over and over again because one of them was pantsed. The 20 days one was pantsed, as in flying by the seat of your pants, no plans. And then the other one that took 5 years was very plotted, and I just, like, I was like, "I need to find a way that's fast, but keeps me in good structure." And
Mhm.
so, I took this Maggie Stiefvater seminar. She's got it, like, on Etsy of all things, and
Ah!
she's so great because she video recorded it, and she talked about her writing process, not that it's the right way, but it was the way that worked for her. And I didn't take all the things, but I took the fact that she wrote in 4-act structure. It made it so simple for me because and honestly, it really is a lot like Save the Cat. So if you look at that structure, they write in 3-act structure, but they break down how you write the second act into 2 parts, and that's what the 4-act structure is. It's just that she took it and she just declared that
Mhm.
these 2 parts are separate. And what was good about it was like, here's 40 chapters. Each act is going to get 10 chapters. Now my brain can just focus on planning 10 chapters at a time. And then I will look at the rest of the book as I come to that next act. And so that allowed me to get a really loose idea of where I was going in the right structure and timing so that I wouldn't
Mhm.
waste my time in the back end, but that I was still writing a book in 20 to 30 days. And that's how I'm a hybrid.
Nice. Now, I'm impressed by the 20, 30 days.
Yeah. I just did it
Now
back to back though, and it was terrible.
oh,
I
no.
mean, I did it, but I burnt out really fast. I'm never going to do that again.
No, I kinda envy that. When I first started, back in don't quote me on this because I would actually have to look at the actual dates, but I think I started around 2009, 2010.
Mhm.
I did a lot of back-to-back books. I wrote 12,
Oh my
and
goodness.
yeah, but now I have, like, 5, 6 books on my desk that are uncompleted,
Mhm.
and I even have I started Vela again. I dropped out of it and then went back into it, and because I thought it would be great to keep me on structure, but then life kinda happens, it does, and slapped me in the face like, "You might not be quite ready yet." But I can understand that. It is a lot, and So to keep yourself structured now, you said you did it with 30 days and you burned out a little bit. So what is your now I know you have another book coming, but let's not get too far ahead on that one. But
Yeah.
so what have you decided to do now? Are you changing your format a little bit as far as your writing process?
No, actually, so that book that's coming out next was actually the second I ever wrote,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's with a publisher who I said, "Please really look at this from
Mhm.
today's standards," because I wrote this over a decade ago, and give me your harsh opinions.
Oh.
I like a fangirl. I love it. Actually, I depend on it, but I do not mind a strong edit. I do not mind someone
Mm.
saying to me like, well, I what if it was like this or what here's what I'm questioning here. Especially in these times when things are very fixable. So,
Yeah.
so I did a rewrite and it was like writing the whole book again. And it was really a struggle for me because I was writing inside of the box that I had already written.
Mm.
And so that I found to be super challenging. I that was really hard, and that was after I just written another novel the month before, and
Ah.
it's like a YA horror that I'm trying my hand at, and so that was why I got burnt out, was 2 novels 2 months in a row. It was not something that I could
Mm.
do. You're a champ for doing 12, like, oh my gosh, I could
Yeah,
never.
but now I'm like I said, I have several books on my desk now, but like I said,
Yeah,
life has gotten it's kind of pushed in my face a little bit. I mean,
yeah.
I've had different things happen. This, you know what I mean? This is podcast isn't about me. But I've had things to step in that. So I envy as structured as you are to keep it going.
Thank
Um,
you.
I will do that for a short term and then like I said, because right now we're building an apartment for my mother since my father passed and so, like, you
Sorry.
just from no, thank you. Just from that little bit, you can kinda understand how everything's kind of skewed right now.
Yeah, sometimes
And
life takes that front seat, and
oh, yeah.
you just
Oh,
have
yeah.
to yeah.
Right. I'm doing like, again, I'm doing my best to get back into that, but even when we're talking about writing, your latest book and is called When Oceans Rise, and this is your newest published,
Yes,
a book that is based on an event in your life. Am I correct?
yes.
Awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. I started writing this because I was taking a graduate memoir writing class, and the professor said, "Write about a time you almost died." And I've almost died a lot in water.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes, a lot, and I was, I was a lifeguard and a surfer. You would think, no, but accidents happen and
Mm.
recklessness happens, and there was
Oh,
this time
yeah.
in my life when I was in an abusive relationship as a teenager, which is really what the book is centered around, and I went surfing during hurricane weather. Not at during the actual hurricane, but the days leading up to a hurricane, the storm really feeds the ocean. And
Mhm.
so it was really dangerous and very thrilling. And I was 17, and that's what you do. And then my professor was like, no, I want you to think more deeply about why you would go out there. And it was because I was in that relationship. And I felt very trapped because specifically it was the kind of relationship that where I was gaslit. And so I
Mhm.
had been separated from friends and family in the way that gaslighting happens. So I didn't know who I could talk to and where I could turn to. And I kind of just was like, hey, maybe let the fates decide because I was already in this dangerous situation, almost drowning. And I
Mhm.
had this moment where I was like, no, I definitely want to live and I definitely don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And, I didn't leave that ocean ready to break up with him right then because it's not that easy. And that was the story that I wanted to express, is that it's not that easy. And sometimes you just wish for some kind of magical solution to all your
Mm.
problems. And that's where the
Oh, yeah.
fantasy element of this story comes about, was, what would I trade to
Mm.
get out of this? And in the story, it's her voice. She's willing to trade her voice to have a whole new life.
Right. So, now you did mention because this book was, simulated from your life event, and one of the things is surfing. So with that, I wanted to find out a little bit more because you seem to have a varied interest. You surf, you do woodworking, which as soon as I told my husband that, he was like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
Because that like was totally appealing to him. Knitting. So tell me
Yeah.
about the varied interest.
I think that comes from ADD, but I didn't realize it for a long time. I just think,
Ah.
I'm a learner at heart. That's part of
Mhm,
the reason that I still work at a university. I want to be around spaces where I'm continually learning, and that's also the appeal of writing, is that you're always researching something. But these hobbies, I think, they come from this need to want to learn new things, and also because I'm very easily hyper fixed on something. I want to go learn that thing and feel like I'm really good at it and then move on. So the woodworking actually came from, I always wanted to do it. My grandpa did stuff like that. My father-in-law is super good at it. And when COVID hit, I was like, please give me some wood and tell me how to do things. And I made some chairs for my front yard. That was my first woodworking project, and it was really cool. I have my husband's help for a lot of things because, why not work together? That sounds fun. And knitting
Mhm,
comes from just this is like one of my hobbies where I learned how to crochet from my grandma. What's the next thing I could do? Knit. And things like surfing. That was something that I did when I was a teenager and I was working as a lifeguard, and my lifeguard friends were all doing it before work. And so I was like, please teach me that. I would like to know that.
mhm.
And I wasn't even loud about that hobby. Like most people in my high school didn't even know I did it. it because I just wasn't a speaker about it in loud spaces. That's not who I was back then. Um,
Mhm.
but, you know,
I understand that. I'm a little bit different in the sense that I always like to try different things, and then once I felt that not exactly mastered them, but, like, I taught myself how to play the violin, but only to the part where
ooh,
I can play yeah, don't be too impressed. It's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and stuff like that, it's the basics. But once I did it and I was like, "Yeah, accomplished, move on,"
yeah.
and like the flute and stuff, the native not a Native American flute, I love that stuff, and once I learned the basic tune, I was done. I moved aside to that, and then it was, way back when I was in my 20s, I created some quilts for all the kids, my nieces and nephews.
Ooh.
Yeah, don't get too impressed, they fell apart in the washing machine, but that's beside the point. My accomplishment was that I finished them. Maybe not to, like, a master's in any of
Yeah.
them, but just the fact of I think the only thing that I latched onto and like I said, I already have 5 or 6 still sitting on my desk that need to be completed, was writing because that, my husband told me, he says, you should write a book." And I was like, "No, I can't do that. I cannot write a book." Are you kidding me? Because I always wrote short stories, and I did them for years for Christmas cards. I would write all these
Oh.
short stories and put them in there. In fact, some family was like, "When are you gonna do the Christmas cards?" I'm not on the list this year, and I would, "Okay, add," because they would move and not tell me, and I would say, "Okay, well, I need the new address," but it was mainly because of the stories. I would add a little story, and I would do all the cards homemade. Yeah, I was a freak, okay?
Oh
I
my
ironed these
gosh, that's really
uh,
cool.
well, it's time consuming, and I guess it was great at the time, but my husband, we were like we just reached a certain age, and he's like, "Okay, what are you gonna do now?" And he was like, "You should write a book." And I was like, "No, I can't do that. Can't do that. Are you nuts? I don't have the, devotion to write a book." So I understand what you're saying in a lot of sense like that.
Yeah.
And having your hands full of stuff and constantly learning, I actually think that keeps you young too, because when you
Yes.
still have the drive to wanna learn stuff, that keeps you going and keeps you motivated. You're never bored. And speaking of always doing something, tell me about the writing for the Coastal Bend's business magazine.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I did that for a very short amount of time. Like, I mean, and what I mean is I actually it wasn't a short amount of time.
Mm.
It was maybe a year, but they put out so few issues because they
Oh, did I lose you?
were only quarterly then. And can you hear me?
There you are.
Oh. Cool. Okay,
There you
so
are.
so
Okay, you're there. Go ahead.
you're here. Yeah, I did it, and what was so strange about that one is that I was like, "Well, I don't have business experience." And they were like, "You don't need it. You just need writing experience, and you
Mhm,
worked in news for a long time, so you know what interviewing is like." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And it was a lot of just, having questions prepared ahead of time, making the phone calls to set up little, phone interviews because I was across Texas, so I wasn't going to be able to do anything in person. And then just writing the article afterwards. And the person who helped set me up with that was so organized that the job felt like a breeze. And so that
mhm.
was really cool.
Well, and I also see that you are, right? No, or was a co-editor of the magazine The Sage. Is that still current?
No, it's not current anymore. I did that for some of my graduate years.
Okay.
One of my graduate years. So, like, I was in it for 1 year and then, co-editor the next year, and that was a really fun experience because, you have a whole university of very talented writers who aren't just in English. I mean, since I was in my master's program, I knew a lot of graduate English and some undergraduate English, but there are talented people in a lot of other domains. And so I got to have submissions from a lot of cool people, and it was really hard to choose because
Right.
they were so talented. And we did a section of of fiction, and then poetry, and then art, which we had an actual art person selecting the art because that would not have been great if they wanted me to pick stuff.
Oh, there's my timer. Hold on. Let me stop that. Sorry. I was enthralled in what you were saying and I didn't catch it. I'm very sorry about that. It's kind of loud. But that's all right. I have a few more questions if you want to stay with me.
Sure, yeah, I have time.
Awesome. Awesome. So, I actually did a magazine a few years back. It was just online. It was supporting authors one read at a time. So we have that in common.
Oh,
We had
cool.
oh yeah, we had a couple hundred authors involved, and we also got about, I think, 5,000 hits a month. So it was
Wow.
yes, it was awesome, but it was so much work. It was so much work for one monthly online. It was cool because the pages turned. We had
Oh,
a
yeah.
we did the software for it and everything, but it was a lot of work. Um, so we have that in common. So I understand that. I understand that. But you actually wrote a short story called Abomination, right?
Yes.
And what was that about for the magazine?
That one is okay, so hold on, because 'cause I've actually pushed those 2 stories together in my head, and I don't wanna get this wrong. Oh, okay,
Okay.
so have you heard of the concept of soul families?
mm, Sort of, but go ahead and elaborate just in
Yeah,
case I've
so
got the wrong thinking,
I
then
I
what you're
really
meaning.
love, like I really love listening to different, ideologies, I guess, and things that people believe in, and one of the things that was really captivating to me was this idea that we all have soul families, people in the spiritual realm that we come back to this life with every
Mhm.
single life. And that before you come, you sign these soul contracts of the things that are great and the things that might be pretty terrible that will happen, with the idea that you are going to grow as a soul and become stronger and better in these other spiritual realms, and then you might visit other worlds, right? That earth is one of the hardest ones to live on because it is so dense. The emotions are heavier, and so when you experience this world, you grow a lot faster. And so it was a really great concept. So there is some toxicity about it in the sense of, well, if it's like almost like saying you're blaming the victim for the bad things that happen if you believe in this idea is what some people say. And I don't have thoughts on either side as to what is right. I just thought wouldn't it be interesting to explore this idea of two souls betraying each other, two sister souls, twin flames, betraying each other life after life, and having to figure out how to stop themselves in the human world where you're not allowed to know that you're connected in this way, before they obliterate their soul.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's it's very depth, and it actually gives you a lot of visions on that. It was
Yeah.
sparking to my head.
Yeah, I tried a
Yeah.
novel, the novel version of it, because, when Ocean's Rise started out, it was a short story I turned into a novel. But I went over my 20 to 30-day limit earlier this year and was like, "I'm done with this," and I walked away, and I don't know if I'll ever go back.
Right.
That's the problem. If I don't hit that number, I kind of lose interest. I got stuck in a part where I didn't know what to do, and I just stopped, and I may never go back to it.
Oh, yeah. That is, like, my worst fear about this. I said a few books that I have on my desk that aren't finished. I keep continually trying. I'll go back and I play with them, but also there's always that fear the longer you're away from something, you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yes.
That you lose touch to it. And
Yes.
so then I'll have to go back and read and all that. So, yeah, I fully understand that. I really do. Probably more so right now in my life, more so,
Yeah.
yes.
I have
Like,
projects I haven't gone back to, and I think maybe one day I'll rewrite, but a rewrite is so much harder than just starting a book anew.
Yeah.
When you start that book anew, you have all the freedom to do whatever and make all the mistakes, and then but when you're trying to fix something that might be a
Yes.
mistake, it's so much harder.
It
Um,
is. And
yeah.
also if you grow more, say you've written another book prior to the
Yeah.
one that you've set aside, then you're like, "Crap, what was I thinking when I was writing this?"
Yes, I'm
Uh,
better now.
or sometimes you'll go back and like, "My gosh, I'm a mad genius."
Yeah, I wrote that.
I know, I know. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not trying to say I'm all that, but I guess it just appeals
Yeah.
to me. I
No,
write
it
for myself, and
you
if
can
anyone
do
else enjoys that along the ride, then I'm like, yes, I'm even better. Victory.
it. Oh.
so, so now I know you have another book coming because I don't want to leave you tonight without addressing that. You have another book, and it's called Starseed. Am I correct?
No, that's the novel version of Abomination that
Oh, okay.
I was like, "Oh, I'll start it," and so in my newsletter, you get that one free, and it's this what happens after shorts, like, almost like a novelette,
Okay.
and so people get it for free if they join my newsletter. No, the next one that's being published is Paramore, which is a
Oh,
YA
okay.
banshee mythology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm really wanting to go sign up for your email.
Go find out what happens because abomination is in the spiritual realm of before when the contract gets signed and there's a betrayal up there, and then Starseed addresses what happens on the earthly planes, and so you kind of get to see the whole mapping of what that novel was going to look like. I just didn't fill in the blanks.
Nice. Well, tell
Yeah.
me about the newest that's coming and tell me about the release date.
So that's the one that initially was supposed to come out in November, but, I had to do that rewrite, and my publisher and I, were like, "Maybe we should put it off and not stress out about it," and I was like, "I would love that," because at this point, I didn't feel very good.
Mhm.
I just finished that rewrite this week, so I'm very tired.
Nice.
But yeah, it's, a YA paranormal romance. It's got Twilight vibes, for sure,
Mm.
because I wrote it in my Twilight era. That's how long
Ah,
ago it was.
wow.
It was written for my friend Mercy, who had, just some terrible things happen to her. And I just thought, what if I give her this gift of all the things that she really like deserves, this passionate love and, this adventure. And I wrote it before she got sick. And
Mhm.
and then she got sick, and she was there at my house when I got the deal for it, and she passed away knowing that there
Oh,
would be
I'm
a book that
sorry.
kind of Thank you. Yeah, that there would be a book that would kind of memorialize her, I guess. It's not
Mhm.
it's very fantasy, so it's not her, like, memoir, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's in honor of her and just the way that I love her.
Yes, well, that's awesome, though. I mean, to
Yeah.
carry on her name and the fact that she knew you were going to do it,
Yeah.
that's that's fantastic. Now I will have to get the book. So we're looking at when are we looking at the release date then? So you just finished it a week. Do they know when you're pushing for the date?
Well, it was supposed to be November 14th, but if it's gonna get pushed, it'll probably be January. We haven't set a solid date.
Okay.
Because, once they go over what I've just done, we
Mhm.
have to look at if there's gonna be another
Oh,
major,
yeah.
developmental edit. So we'll see, but I'm hoping January, and I think that, I think it actually, as a paranormal romance, would do really well in January.
Well, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
wanna thank you so much, Robin, for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me. This was so
Oh,
fun.
well. Oh, well, I love having you on. You're awesome.
Thank
And you put up with all my tongue-tiedness. I know,
Oh, I
sometimes I
thought you were
guess
great.
sometimes I get so excited and wrapped up in the interview that my tongue just won't wrap around the words.
Right, like you think faster than your mouth can move.
Yes,
That happens to me
yes,
a lot.
yes. Oh my gosh, right? And it's really embarrassing in public when people are looking at me. Behind the mic, I'm okay, like, they can't see me. But out in public, girl, it is embarrassing.
Oh, I happen to find, human errors very charming, so
Oh, well, hey,
yeah.
I'm wreaking it tonight then. Thank you so much for being on, and I'd love to have you back, especially when the new book comes back, because 'cause
Oh,
I'd
that would
love
be
to
so
have you. Love
great.
to have you back. So it's that time in the show, guys. I know most people enjoy this. And tonight's Amazon, there we go, Amazon deal of the day is something I actually bought today. I don't know about you guys, but when you do your protein shakes, we try to do every morning. I love sometimes putting iced coffee with it. But it has to be the instant because well, you can melt the ice and brew it and do all the espresso, which I've done too. But I find putting the instant coffee is awesome. So today I chose Starbucks Premium Instant Coffee, dark roast, 100% Arabic, 3 tens up to 120 cups, guys. And get this, if you know anything about Starbucks, we know how expensive this can be. This is 11% off. It's 24.78 for 3 freaking tens. It's down from 27.99. And guys, I'll have the link in the bio because if you're anything like me, you'll want this coffee, which I just bought today. I want to thank so much again, Robin, for being on tonight. I want to thank our listeners as always, guys. I cannot always believe how many times we've been downloaded. It's just phenomenal. Over 2K, and I just love you immensely. And that's just on Podbean. That doesn't even count our count on other social media aspects for podcasts. So thank you so much. Until next time, bye bye for now.